This is CNN Breaking News.
But first, the breaking news out of Florida and the controversy surrounding the death of an unarmed black teenager. Trayvon Martin's parents are expected to speak at a news conference any moment now. They've met with Justice Department officials just a short while ago. You're looking at live pictures outside the news conference. The family and their supporters have been calling for the arrest of the neighborhood watch volunteer who shot and killed Martin. The Sanford, Florida police chief bowed to mounting pressure and says he's stepping down at least temporarily from his post. Watch this.
My role as the leader of this agency has become a distraction from the investigation. While I stand by the Sanford Police Department, its personnel, and the investigation that was conducted in regards to the Trayvon Martin case, it is apparent that my involvement in this matter is overshadowing the process. Therefore, I have come to the decision that I must temporarily remove myself from the position as police chief for the city of Sanford. I do this in the hopes of restoring some semblance of calm to the city, which has been in turmoil for several weeks.
We're also learning more about the shooter, George Zimmerman, and his past in the Northern Virginia area just outside of Washington, D.C. Let's go there, see it as Brian Todd has been investigating. What are you finding out, Brian?
Wolf, we're here on the street where George Zimmerman grew up in Manassas, Virginia. This is the house where he grew up, where we believe he lived until about 2001. And over here, neighbors we spoke to, an elderly couple still trying to come to grips with what happened to the family they knew. George Hall looks at the local newspaper and still can't believe it. His former cross-the-street neighbor, George Zimmerman, is a front-page headline.
This thing about George just floors me. I mean, I'm shocked. I didn't realize it was him at first, you know. I would have never guessed it.
George and Kay Hall lived across from Zimmerman and his family for about 2 decades, until the Zimmermans moved after George graduated from high school. George Hall, a retired Presbyterian minister, described Zimmerman and his older brother as friendly, dependable neighbors, part of a tightly knit family who had their maternal grandmother living with them. What was his demeanor like as a young man in the neighborhood?
He was always polite. Both of them were always polite. They were always thoughtful.
Helping with groceries, Hall says, helping them retrieve their dog. According to the Halls and state officials, Zimmerman's parents worked in local government, his father Robert as a magistrate, his mother Gladys as a clerk for the Prince William County Court. The pastor of All Saints Catholic Church says George Zimmerman was an altar boy here. George Zimmerman graduated from Osborne High School in 2001. We were told no member of the faculty could talk to us about him. In the yearbook, there's not a lot of information about him. It does say that he was in the Future Business Leaders of America in his junior and senior years. And in a section entitled Planning for Their Future, a quote from George Zimmerman: "I'm going to Florida to work with my godfather who just bought a $1 million business." But George Zimmerman's career plans seem to have changed. A couple years back, he came to you and asked you for a recommendation?
Yes. Because he wanted to go to the police academy and become a police officer.
What'd you write on the recommendation?
Yes, very positive one. I mean, I have nothing but the strongest positive feelings for the whole family, including the boys.
I asked Kay Hall about a key implication in the Trayvon Martin shooting and Zimmerman's involvement. Is he a racist, from what you know of him?
Not from what I know of, because basically they were a minority themselves. You know, 20 years ago they were Hispanic, and before there were a lot of Hispanics around, and we had blacks in the neighborhood and Hispanics, Hungarian. There was no discrimination that I ever noticed or saw.
George Hall says if there can be no case made against George Zimmerman, he hopes that authorities in Florida will help Zimmerman through all of this. Hall says if there is a case to be made against Zimmerman, he hopes that the authorities there will put Zimmerman in jail for his own protection. Wolf?
Brian, you're also hearing other stories from some of the interactions that Zimmerman had with another family in that neighborhood. Tell our viewers.
That's right. We talked to a woman down the street here, an African-American woman. She did not want to be filmed. She did not want her name used or anything regarding her family, her house, anything like that. She did say, though, that her young son had corresponded on Facebook with George Zimmerman. She was not sure if this occurred since the Trayvon Martin shootings or not, but she said her son had on occasion corresponded with George Zimmerman on Facebook. So, again, a lot of diversity in this neighborhood. George Zimmerman at least had a relationship with people of all walks of life from this neighborhood.
Brian Todd in Manassas, Northern Virginia for us. Thanks, Brian. CNN special report, by the way, will break down the legal angles to the Trayvon Martin killing and the reaction in Florida across the country Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, only here on CNN. And we're standing by for a news conference in Sanford, Florida. The parents of Trayvon Martin, they'll be coming over there fairly soon. They've been meeting with Justice Department officials to get their reaction to what they heard from Justice Department officials who are at least starting an investigation potentially into civil rights abuses, if in fact that did occur in this shooting in Sanford. But we don't have that yet. We did just get a statement in from the Justice Department. Let me read it to our viewers as you look at what's going on in Sanford, Florida right now. Earlier today, U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, Robert O'Neill, the Deputy Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, Roy Austin Jr., and other department officials met with the family of Trayvon Martin, specifically his father, Mr. Tracy Martin, and his mother, Ms. Sabrina Fulton, along with their attorney. First and foremost, the statement from the Justice Department says, we extended and continue to extend our deepest condolences to the family for their loss. During the course of this meeting, we listened carefully to the concerns of the family and their representatives. The statement winds up by saying this. Earlier this week, the Department of Justice announced the opening of a parallel investigation into the death of Trayvon Martin. That matter remains open at this time. The Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office, and FBI are available to provide local authorities with assistance in this case where appropriate. All right, that's the statement just released by the Justice Department. We'll have the news conference from the parents as soon as they show up there. There'll be a rally there later tonight as well. We're watching this story unfold.